Imagine a world where the champagne never stops flowing, where the guest list includes every A-lister you've ever admired, and where the host is the undisputed king of New York. For 30 years, Sean Diddy Combs didn't just live the American dream, he sold it to us. But behind the white linens of the Hamptons and the flashing lights of the Grammys, a much darker beat was playing. A rhythm of coercion, a melody of fear, and a symphony of silence that lasted 3 decades.
In March 2024, the world watched in stunned silence as federal agents swarmed his mansions. In September, the handcuffs clicked shut. And by July 2025, the king of bad boy was headed to a federal cell. How did a kid from Harlem build a billion-dollar empire, only to have it revealed as a playground for systemic abuse? Today, we're peeling back the velvet curtain. This isn't just a downfall. This is the autopsy of an empire.
To understand the fall, you have to understand the height. Sean Combs wasn't born with a silver spoon. He was born with a relentless, almost frightening hunger. Born in Harlem in 1969, his life was framed by tragedy early on. His father, Melvin, was killed when Sean was just 2 years old. His mother, Janice, worked 4 jobs to keep them afloat. Young Sean learned the hustle. He wasn't just an intern at Uptown Records. He was a force of nature. When he was fired, he didn't go home and cry. He went across the street and built his own kingdom, Bad Boy Records. 1993 changed everything. He found a kid from Brooklyn named Christopher Wallace, the notorious B.I.G. Together, they shifted the axis of the music world. But even then, there were signs of a by any means necessary mentality. Diddy wasn't just a producer. He was a brand, a face, and a gatekeeper. When Biggie was murdered in 1997, Diddy did something controversial. He stepped into the spotlight himself. I'll Be Missing You became a global anthem, but it also cemented a new reality. Diddy was no longer just the man behind the music. He was the man in the center of the frame. By the early 2000s, he was P. Diddy, then Diddy. He had Sean John Clothing, C-Rock Vodka, and MTV's Making the Band. He was a billionaire mogul who seemed untouchable. But while we were watching him dance in the videos, the shadows behind him were growing longer.
For years, Diddy's parties were the stuff of legend. If you were invited to a white party, you had made it. But among the industry elite, there were whispers. Rumors of freak-offs, extravagant, multi-day sexual marathons that supposedly involved drugs, coerced performances, and hidden cameras. The public saw the glamour, the industry saw the power, but a few saw the violence. In 1999, a shooting at a Manhattan club left 3 people injured. Diddy was acquitted, but his protege, Shine, went to prison for 10 years. It was the first major crack in the bad boy image, a hint that loyalty to the king came at a devastating price. Then there was the control. Former artists began to speak out about predatory contracts and slave deals. But the most haunting evidence wouldn't surface for years. We now know that in 2016, inside a Los Angeles hotel, a security camera captured a nightmare. It showed Diddy wrapped in a towel, brutally assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassandra Cassie Ventura. He kicked her, dragged her, and threw a vase. At the time, it vanished. Money, power, and fear kept that tape in a drawer for nearly a decade. Diddy wasn't just a mogul anymore. He was a master of suppression.
We are about to get into the moment the empire finally shattered. If you're finding this deep dive eye-opening, hit that like button. It helps us tell these stories that the powerful tried to bury. Are you shocked by how long this stayed hidden? Drop a comment below. I'm reading every single one.
November 16th, 2023. That is the day the music stopped. Cassie Ventura filed a bombshell lawsuit. She didn't just claim abuse. She detailed a 10-year cycle of violence and sex trafficking. She spoke of freak-offs where she was forced to engage with male sex workers while Diddy watched and filmed. She alleged he blew up a rival's car and kept her under a constant fog of drugs. Diddy settled the suit within 24 hours for an undisclosed amount, rumored to be millions. His camp said it wasn't an admission of guilt, but the damage was done. The untouchable was bleeding. Over the next few months, the floodgates didn't just open, they exploded. Over 70 lawsuits followed. Men and women from his past came forward with stories of being drugged in recording studios, assaulted in hotel rooms, and threatened into silence.
Then came March 2024. Homeland Security raided his mansions in Miami and Los Angeles. We saw the footage. His sons in handcuffs, agents carrying out crates of evidence. What did they find? According to the indictment, AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, narcotics, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, supplies for the freak-offs that prosecutors claimed were the engine of his criminal enterprise. In September 2024, the feds made their move. They arrested him in a Manhattan hotel. The charge? Racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The government's thesis was simple. Sean Combs didn't just run a record label, he ran a criminal organization designed to fulfill his darkest desires. The trial in May 2025 was the trial of the century. The world watched as Cassie Ventura finally took the stand, her voice steady as she recounted years of terror. The defense fought hard, painting the victims as gold diggers and claiming every encounter was a consensual lifestyle choice. But the evidence, the tapes, the hotel footage, the testimony from former staff who were complicit in arranging the transport of victims was overwhelming.
In July 2025, the jury returned. The tension in that courtroom was thick enough to choke on. The verdict: not guilty on racketeering, not guilty on sex trafficking. The defense sighed in relief, but it was short-lived. Guilty on 2 counts of transporting individuals for the purpose of prostitution. The man who once sat atop the Forbes list was sentenced to approximately 4 years in federal prison. He is currently serving that time, with a projected release date in 2028. An empire that took 30 years to build was dismantled in less than 2.
Sean Diddy Combs once famously said, "Bad boy for life." But as he sits in a cell, the life he built looks very different from the outside. This story isn't just about one man. It's about a culture that protected power at the expense of people. It's about the Whisper Network finally getting a megaphone. It's a reminder that no matter how many billions you have or how many hits you produce, the truth has a funny way of catching up to the beat. Was the sentence enough? Or did his wealth buy him a lighter blow? That's for history to decide. If you want to stay updated on the appeals or see more deep dives into the dark side of Hollywood, make sure you're subscribed and have that bell icon turned on. What's your take? Is this the end of the Diddy era or just a temporary pause? Let's discuss it in the comments. I'm Sama, and thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay skeptical.